Welcome or welcome back to 2-minute trumpet tricks, depending on your history. You have to excuse me a little bit. In Texas, we have all the flowers and leaves coming out, so my allergies are acting up, so my voice is a little bit under the weather. But today's trick is something that I use today, and I think it would help you quite a bit, especially those of you that want to spend a lot of time practicing on difficult parts, solos, whatever. This little puppy right here is the first time I've played on my D trumpet probably in 30 years. So it was kind of like shaking hands with an old friend and getting used to the instrument. And the piece that I'm going to be recording this week is an oboe piece, which stays up there in the upper register quite a bit. So I'm not fighting the solo as much as I'm fighting the horn until I can get my ear straightened out. I unfortunately have perfect pitch, and when I look at a note, I know what it's supposed to sound like. When I see it in D trumpet parts, it throws me completely off. So I have to relearn my visual and my audio connection between the two parts and the actual note pitches. But basically, this piece is not too hard, but getting used to the horn is something that I have to spend some time on. Today I spent 2.5 hours on this instrument playing that solo. Now you might ask, how can you spend that much time without getting in trouble as far as embouchures and so forth? I space it out in a very convenient way. First of all, I'm a strong believer in rest as much as you play. My students know this. It's like my mantra. If you practice a certain phrase and you rest an equal amount and go back to it, this back and forth of trading off between playing and resting can extenuate your practice for a long time. In fact, like today, 2.5 hours on a smaller instrument. You would have killed me when I was in college because I would just sit there hammering on my face until I bled and thought I'd gotten something done. But today I got a lot accomplished in a 2.5 hour period, but I wasn't playing constantly. I was using the play and rest concept, which I will show you in the video supplement probably next week, because 2 minutes goes by so fast. But you might want to stay tuned for that, because I'll put together a video on how I was able to practice 2.5 hours and still respect my embouchure. It deals with this play rest concept. It deals with a tape loop that I practice with, that I record on Audacity, and I'll explain that on next week's also. Looping the solo back and forth and choosing certain parts of the solo to play with as it's being looped. Again, next week I'll get into that and show you how to do that. But basically, there is a mark on my lip from playing for 2.5 hours, but I'm not tired. I'm not hurting, definitely. I feel as good now as when I started. It has to do with the practice that I do, the routine I do, the taping I do, the recording I have, the tempos that I use on my recordings, and cooling down at the end, which includes playing trombone for relaxing the embouchure. And again, if you don't have a trombone, I can show you what to substitute for that also. So since we don't have enough time, stay tuned for next week and I'll get into the nuts and bolts part of this. But right now, I'm just proving that I played 2.5 hours on this little sucker, and I feel good, as James Brown would say. Thank you. Come back next week.